What's up? Think International, Jeff Morris here, and we're about to sit down with Phil Cooke, founder of Cooke Pictures, and basically an overall media genius. Let's get inside. So working so much in media, and you get to see churches and church media all across the board, different countries and the whole deal. We as Christians are, it seems like Christian media is synonymous with horrible media.
Pretty much.
Why? Why is that?
That's a great question. I mean, you're right. This year we celebrated our 20th anniversary at Cooke Pictures. So in those 20 years, and I was in the business many years before that, so I've seen a lot of Christian expressions of Christian media, if you will. And I think a lot of it is, you know what, Christian media people are not bad people. Pastors are not bad people.
Right.
The problem is we focus on the message and we forget how that message is delivered. So we get the message right, but we kind of mess up when it comes to the packaging of the message. And particularly today, we live in this unlimited choice universe of, that's so distracted, so cluttered. DirecTV has 500 channels. The average cable system in America has 160 channels. So how the package is delivered today is just as important as what the message is.
Sure.
The average person, we did some studies here at Cooke Pictures, and we discovered that the average person takes between 2 to 3 seconds to decide what program to watch. So I don't care how anointed your message is, I don't care how great your sermon is or how great the show is. If people don't get past that 2 or 3 second mark, you fail.
Right.
So the package becomes more and more important.
So with that package, as far as your branding, your marketing, and even your naming, again, Christians seem to be, most of them, horrible at that. Like the way they name their ministries, the way they brand themselves, the logos they throw. It's like it's Fire Mountain, Holy Ghost Ministries, and
For All People, Lighthouse of Hope. It's true, and it's the truth is, for most of our history, it didn't matter so much.
Right.
For most of our history, people, in fact, when I grew up in the South in the 50s and 60s, church was an event. People wanted to go to church. Sure. It was the most interesting thing we did all week.
Right.
Now there are just so many choices, and I think honestly, for a leader in the Christian world, clutter is the single biggest enemy we have. Clutter. Because today there are video monitors in gas pumps. There are video monitors in elevators. You can't escape knowing that some Hollywood celebrity is going to rehab for the 15th time.
Exactly.
We're being literally, I talk in my book Jolt that researchers in the UK have studied it and figured out we're being bombarded with an average of about 5,000 media messages a day. So in that world, clutter is our challenge. So having said that, the name matters more than anything because people aren't going to get past your name. Packaging matters more than anything, the way you look. And the thing to remember is everything communicates. Everything. Your attitude, the way you look, the opening of your program, your carpet at church. I tell pastors that I don't care how much money you spend on marketing or how great your sermon is. If that visitor comes to church and meets a grumpy usher, that's their perception.
Right.
So it does trickle down, and it's really important.
What's the solution? Like, what is the solution to the media, the marketing, the whole deal?
Understanding that it's not just the message, it's how you deliver it that matters. I think there are new rules. It's interesting that this digital revolution that we're in the middle of isn't just changing the way we connect. It's actually changing the way we tell our story. And most church leaders don't really understand that. And I believe if you don't understand that change, your career is over. Because we live in such a fast-paced, overwhelming world. I mean, look at it this way. A Maasai tribesman in Africa today with a cell phone has access to more information than the President of the United States did just 10 years ago.
It's true.
And historians say we used to measure change in between 200 to 500 year increments. Then it shrunk down to a generation. Now we measure change in 5-year increments because it's happening so quickly.
Fast,
So the point is that platform, the way you deliver the message becomes just as important as what the message itself is.
So there is a necessity then for pastors, leaders, whatnot, organization leaders, business people to really, as far as in the faith, to be somewhat use the term culturally relevant to understand what's happening and
absolutely. Your perception in a cluttered world matters more than ever. And I tell pastors all the time that, in my book Branding Faith, I talk about the fact that a brand is not something to fear. It's not shops in Asia or capitalism gone crazy or the Occupy Wall Street thing. A brand is simply your perception. It's a compelling story that surrounds a person or a product or an organization. Everything has a brand. Right. Starbucks has a brand. Nike has a brand. First Baptist Church has a brand. You have a brand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's simply, what do people think of when they think of you? And in this cluttered world we live in, that perception is the key to whether or not they're going to listen to your message. If they don't have a positive, immediate, good perception of you, why take the time? I got 500 other channels to watch. I got plenty of other things to do. I got other churches to choose. Right. So it's sad. Don't shoot the messenger. I wish it wasn't that way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But we have to deal with the world we live in.
That's for sure. And you mentioned earlier technology.
Yeah.
Media is changing drastically, and you're a veteran in the industry. You've gone through the different the different eras in television and whatnot, and now there's all sorts of web media, video, all that different stuff. How do you keep up with it?
RSS feeds. It's actually really hard. I wake up every morning. I get 2 daily newspapers. I get the LA Times and I get the Wall Street Journal. And when I'm traveling, I always check the newspaper in the local town I'm in. Right. But I'm a big fan of RSS, and I can open my computer in the morning, and I've got a very strict regime of RSS feeds that I'm reading from media, branding, Christian sources, marketing, all kind of different, creativity, productivity, all different sources. And I can scan through there and kind of get an idea of what's going on. Even Twitter, my wife and I were talking the other day that I get a remarkable amount of news from Twitter.
Oh, for sure.
It's no surprise that Haiti, Twitter went out about Haiti, that the Egyptian uprising, the Arab Spring, it was all about, getting the news out via Twitter. And so there's some interesting ways to do it. I think the key thing is understanding that a barrage of information is not wisdom.
Right.
And at some point, I think we have to slow down and pick and choose who we're listening to and who's speaking into our lives. And so I'm a big reader. I'm older, I guess, so I'm still a book guy, and I like to mark them up,
Ditto.
And so I think taking that time to read, it's about growth, really. I'm not a goals person. I'm a growth person. I discover when you do goals, you hit a goal and then you're done.
Yeah.
With growth, there's always something new to learn.
Right, exactly.
And I think we can learn a lot from that.
How do you think this kind of new wave of media is going to affect television in the long term, and then even more specifically, Christian television?
One of the things we're finding is that this generation, millennials who are born 1980 to 1995, have grown up understanding that media is a two-way street. When I was a kid, we had 3 channels. Big old giant stereo TV, console TV, and it was a one-way conversation. I could watch Gilligan's Island, but I could not help him get off the island. There's nothing I could do. Today, a generation has grown up picking the next American Idol by texting on their cell phone.
Right.
They know they have power.
Wow.
So I think the takeaway from that is going to change everything. It changes TV, it changes sermons, it changes church, it changes business, it changes education. I was on a plane the other day with a president of a university, and he told me he was building a new classroom building. None of the rooms have a podium or a front. He said they're all built around high tables with stools around them, and the student sits there with their laptop and they plug in, and they can send what they're seeing on their laptop to any of the flat screen monitors on the wall that surrounds the classroom. He said it's all about being interactive now. He said teachers don't like it, but we're discovering that students are performing better in that kind of environment. So because they've grown up being interactive.
Yeah.
So my takeaway from that is Christian television better figure out a way to hear back from the audience. Whether it's through blogs, whether it's through social media, whether it's through other avenues, we need to make it a two-way street. We need to engage with the audience and make it a conversation. That's really the social media revolution that's really built that and generated that.
That's brilliant. Within the church, people are, like you said, people are used to texting into their American Idol, Facebooking each other, the whole deal. And the church has been predominantly man up front,
traditional,
speaking to the crowd.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to
Pastors are in for a rude awakening. I think pastors have to realize that if they're not listening to what's going on there in the congregation, and it's it's not about compromising, it's not about watering down your message.
Sure.
It's just about being responsive. When I speak, I speak all over the world these days, and whenever I talk to a group, the Q&A part is my favorite part.
Right.
Because I can pontificate on a number of things.
Sure.
But I want to know what's bothering them, what's interesting to them. And sometimes we have the greatest question and answer session afterwards. And I would actually like to see, there's a place for teaching, no question about it.
Sure, of course.
But I do think we need to get more interactive. And whether we're doing that by people twittering, whether we're doing that, I did an interesting, I speak at a lot of colleges and universities. In almost every case, they have a Twitter feed for the event, a hashtag for the event.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And so it's very interesting to see what people say at different parts during my talk. I go back and study it and look at it. And it's just, college students are remarkably brutal. And they're terribly honest. And so it's really enlightening to see. The problem is, that older generation of pastors and teachers aren't used to that.
Right.
They're not used to actually hearing what people are thinking or saying during their talk. And they're in for a rude awakening, I think.
Wow.
It will change everything. I really do think that. And here's the deal. The good news is there's a younger generation of pastors that are growing up who totally get it.
Right.
Totally get it. Now, the sad thing about that younger generation is they look at traditional Christian television.
Sure.
And they think, oh my gosh, if that's what Christian TV is, it's not for me.
Right.
They see the cheesy stuff, the cornball stuff, and it's driving them to the web. Now they're doing some remarkable things on the web.
Yeah.
However, you and I both understand that television is still a powerful, powerful medium, and I feel badly that the well-meaning but bad television that we see on Christian TV for the most part is driving a younger generation of pastors away from it, and that's really sad. Really sad.
Now there are pockets of the church that are doing some incredible things media-wise. Can you speak to those?
Absolutely.
Stuff you've seen, stuff you know what's going on?
Yeah, we worked with Back to the Bible Ministries in Lincoln, Nebraska recently and did a series called Footnote, which is a pretty amazing series. We were very, very excited about it and pleased with it, that ask the serious questions about life. What happens after you die? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? Tough questions. And it was very innovative. There's a number of pastors out there, whether it's Benny Perez in Vegas or Bill Cornelius in Corpus Christi, or a lot of guys out there that are trying to shift Christian television and do something interesting. David McGee in North Carolina, who's a verse-by-verse Bible teacher in a church called The Bridge, and yet it's a remarkable, his audience. It's like there's a generation of younger people that are tired of pastor as inspirational speaker and are moving back toward pastor as Bible teacher. And they really want hardcore Bible teaching. It's interesting to see that shift. And so I think I'm very encouraged. I see pastors that do want to change the paradigm. A big part of it is getting people to support that. And because most viewers of Christian television statistically are 55 and older women. That's the vast majority. And we're seeing more people like Joyce Meyer, people like Joel Osteen are pulling more people in. And I sat on a plane the other day next to a gal watching a Joyce Meyer program on her iPad. And we're seeing more and more people. And she worked at a major sporting goods company. She was a marketing director, very hip. She told me that, she said, you've got to understand something, Phil. All the women in our office, this national sporting goods company, all the women in our office come in an hour early every day to watch Joyce Meyer on television.
Wow.
And I thought, this is one of the hippest companies on the planet. This is not Walmart. This is a hip company. And so Joyce is doing some cool stuff out there. So it's interesting to see.
So it's really going to take somebody willing to take that risk and not play to the market, but really go after a market of the younger generation.
I'd like to see churches embrace television as a mission field, as a mission outreach. It's because you know what? Globally, the population centers are moving to the city. And so the idea of sending a missionary to a third world country in a village is still good, but millions more are moving into major cities. I would love to see churches embrace television and use that as an outreach to these places. And the fact is, if churches could embrace it and fund it, the programs don't have to make money. They don't have to be profitable. They can be pure evangelistic outreaches, and that would have a huge impact in the world. I think. I mean, put it this way. Television is still, this is interesting. Last year, the Wall Street Journal reported that we lost about 1.6 million viewers in the U.S. to the online world. So the online world is growing, but 1.6 million in terms of the whole population is not much. But ad rates are going up. Why? In fact, people paid more for the Super Bowl this year, I think, than ever. The reason is television is still America's last great campfire.
For sure.
You know what? We go on the web, we're looking at a million different pages.
Exactly,
We're looking at everybody's Facebook page and checking out their friends or their blogs. It's a million different places. Television, we're looking at the same thing. And even though there are a lot of channels on cable, the number of channels that most people watch is fairly small.
Right.
So if we could get a Christian message in there, it would have a huge impact because so many millions of people are watching. And so I think television, don't write it off. I mean, I'm all over the web.
Right, no, yeah.
You're doing great content on the web.
Sure.
But television is still very vital.
Oh, it's huge. Like, I will still sit down at the end of the day with my wife, watch TV, but I might have my laptop, I might have, iPad, I might be on the...
That's right.
Doing the whole thing.
Well, it's interesting you say that. There's a company in LA that, Nielsen does its top 10 primetime programs every day. They list them by viewers. Well, another company came up and said, wonder what the top 10 programs are based on web traffic, based on what people are talking about online. Well, they posted them, and it's a dramatically different list. And what they discovered was, you're exactly right, people watch shows like 24 with Keith or Sutherland, and they're watching on their 60-inch plasma, but they got their laptop in their lap talking to their friends about it.
Yeah.
Now, if we could create Christian programming that was so provocative and so interesting, people would want to watch and then talk to their friends about it online. Boy, that would change everything.
It'd be huge.
That'd be a great goal.
That'd be huge
to shoot for.
How with so much out there now, is so much out there, media-wise, internet-wise, the whole deal. And actually, no, you've written a book and it's coming out.
Yeah,
it's one big thing. How do you, when there's so many different avenues, so much different stuff to know, study, go for, how do you, whittle something down for what is for you, that you can do, that you're all about?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. It's about the niche. My book, One Big Thing, Discovering What You Were Born to Do, I wrote it based on the fact that in this incredibly distracted, cluttered world, you will never get noticed. If you have a message you want to share, if you're a pastor or a filmmaker, or you have an idea for a business or an artist of some kind, if you want to get your message heard, you will never get noticed by being pretty good at a lot of things. Right. You will only get noticed by being extraordinary at one big thing. And I've discovered that you'll probably, it's going to be a challenge to be the best filmmaker out there, a challenge to be the best pastor, or best ministry, or best CEO. But you could be the best in a very small niche. That's where you start. And my big illustration is that when you look at the Grammy Awards, for instance, the woman that's won the most Grammy Awards in history is not Barbara Streisand or Aretha Franklin or Celine or Beyonce. The woman with, by far actually, the most Grammy Awards in history is Alison Krauss, the bluegrass player. Because she owns her niche. Yeah. And you know that no matter what happens at the Grammys, when they announce the Bluegrass Awards, she's going to want to walk away with half of them. Right. So I've discovered that being the best in the world in a very narrow niche puts you on the radar. And it doesn't mean that's all you do.
Sure.
Maybe the best illustration is Jack Hayford, Church on the Way here in LA. My family and I have listened to Pastor Jack for the last 20 years. That was our church home until Jack retired a few years ago to focus on the university that he founded. And I discovered that Jack preaches on everything. All kind of scriptures and Bible stories and family issues and finances. And in 20 years, I've heard him preach hundreds and hundreds of sermons. But if you cut Jack, he will bleed worship. I mean, he's written 5 books on worship.
He's all about worship.
He's written 100 worship songs. He didn't just preach at our church, he led the worship every Sunday. Wow. He lives for worship, and it's what drives him. So, worship becomes the filter that he preaches through, that he writes through. Everything no matter what subject, it's preached through the filter of worship. So the question is, what is that thing for you? If you're a pastor, or a filmmaker, or a business person, what is that filter that no matter what you do or write films about or start companies on, are you filtering that through? And if you can figure that one big thing out, and my book really is about how to figure that out for you. Okay. If you can figure that out, I think it will just absolutely change everything and get you on the radar and get your message noticed.
So it helps you figure out who you are.
Really, who you're wired to be. And why you're. I get people all the time that come up to me and after a conference or event, they'll come up and say, you know what? I have to say, I have no idea why I'm really here for. If I'm really accomplishing what I was born to do. And these are people in their 40s and 50s and 60s. I met a 70-year-old business guy the other day who's been quite successful in business, but he said, Phil, when I get right down to it, I'm not sure if I'm really doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. That's sad.
Yeah.
So I wrote the book to help people really figure that out. What are you wired to do? What are you called to do? And what area, what niche can you change the world in? And if you could figure that out, I think it makes a huge impact.
Huge impact.
It really
huge impact.
does.
That's huge, and that comes out in
July this year, 2012.
2012.
So I'm real excited about that.
2012. Is there like a website that you have up for it yet, or?
Not yet, but I'll be. It's on Amazon. You can pre-order on Amazon. Absolutely, okay. Get those pre-orders coming in.
Perfect. Well, Phil, man, hey, thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure.
It.
You ask great questions, and it's always fun doing this.
Good deal.
Thank you.
All right, Think International, Cooke Pictures.